Okay, so I finally got to see Prometheus. I actually drove like 2 hours to see it with my old college roommate. Wow. Ridley Scott hasn't done a sci-fi movie in I think it's like 20 or 25 years. This is definitely well worth the wait. I know people said, is it a prequel to Aliens? And I've often said, technically no, kinda is. You can tell they're in the same spectrum in the same universe. Plot, actually, the overall plot is very simple. You have a team that's found this specific orientation of stars across multiple ancient civilizations. They then find out that one section of stars only matches this one section, which is like a 2-year journey into space away. So they're thinking whatever's in that area might have been what created life on this planet. Or else why else would multiple civilizations spread all across the earth, as well as throughout time, worship them? So they go out there to try to find what they call the engineers. They take along with them Michael Fassbender, who plays an android named Dave. He does an amazing job in this role. That guy is a ridiculously solidly good actor. Period. He's got just enough of that distanceness and the way that he's portraying himself and the emotions and the character. The character twerks you see every now and then. He's just distant enough, but he still has that like wanting to know more. So you see a definite level of still android, but closer to being like human perfection. So of course the Wyland Technologies wants to go out there and wants to try to find out if this is where the engineers of life on Earth were at. Think of all the questions you're going to ask them. Why did you make us? What is our purpose? You have all these fantastic questions you could ask if you could talk to your creator. And of course, once they get there, that's then when they do some of the classic struggles between man versus man. Not everybody gets along. In some cases, man versus android too. I'll get to that when I finish my review. And then man versus environment. It's an entirely alien environment until they get inside this massive structure. They find a spot where there's an actual atmosphere, so you can take their hoods off, their masks off. And this was done by works done by Geiger, so you definitely see this tremendous amount of like alien gothic look to things. Beautiful job. On to the aliens. They're not face huggers. They're a little bit different. They still enter through an orifice, but they're done differently. When you first see one being born, it looks kind of like a squid. And it's not until later that you see them take on an additional form. But again, really well done. If you're a fan of good science fiction films that deal with a relatively simple plot of, traveling from Earth to a distant section in space to find out about the origin of your species, while same time dealing with things like the nature of the soul lightly, the nature of faith and of religion, just touching on those lightly, but you can tell that they at least talk about them, bring it to the forefront. Really well done movie. So I'll go into some of the different thoughts that came out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Charlize Theron's character is Wyland's daughter. I was talking to my buddy and we thought she really does have that feeling like she's probably a robot. Because the med pad that's inside her station area is designed for men. But it's in her specific wing, so it's not designed for her being a woman. She acts undeniably cold and distant, a lot more than Dave does. But those two seem to have some sort of relationship. And at the same time, when Wyland, she's talking to Wyland, calls Wyland Dad, you can kind of see that she might be a first generation and Dave's a second generation. The birth of the alien at the very end. The creature that was born out of Dr. Leslie, Elizabeth. Oh, I forgot what her last name is. I'll say. Toilet space, not her name. The one she gives birth to actually infects one of the engineers. The engineer then, of course, gives birth to the first close resemblance to the alien. And the planet they go on to, I think it's LV-223, which is in the same cluster as the planet from Alien. You know, so you do have enough to put the two kind of together. And if you stay towards the end of the credits, there is an additional scene, but they do give you a website. For I think it's Wyland Industries /timeline, and it does have 10.11.12, whatever that's going to stand for.